That may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
Okay, honestly, this was, I want to say, one of the weirdest weeks of football that we have had so far this season. Whether that's some players drastically underperforming, whether that's a couple of random names here or there popping off and kind of winning you the week. We're going to be going through recapping everything that happened in week 12 and more importantly, talking about the lessons that can be learned from the week 12 conclusions. My God, we got a couple things horribly wrong, but of course, before we dive into it, we have to give away some Fantasy Flock Network hats. We're giving away hats every single day for people who are down there. Subscribe to the channel, drop a like and a comment on the videos. Of course, our winners coming out from Scott and Ulysses. I probably pronounced that wrong. Nonetheless, if you win a Fantasy Flock Network hat, make sure you just send me that DM ASAP with your address so I can get that shipped out to you. And before we dive into these lessons learned, it is not too late. Go out there, check out some of the player props that they have on Underdog Fantasy for that Monday night game between the Seattle Seahawks and the Washington football team. I mean, on Underdog Fantasy, not only do they have player props you can take advantage of every single week, but at the same time, you can get into a fantasy draft just for week 13 if you would like. I mean, with Underdog Fantasy, when you make your first deposit with promo code FLOCK, they'll match that deposit dollar for dollar up to $100 to go along with this. I mean, come on, it supports this channel and it's available in damn near every single state. So please take advantage of that. Drop a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. Let's get into this and let's start this video off with our first lesson learned, being a lesson that we learned last week. I mean, if you didn't learn it last week, I don't know what I can do for you. Like, this is something that should be known at this point. This is something that is common knowledge, but Mason Dodd has no idea. And I repeat, no idea what's going on with the tight end position. I mean, I am a straight up clown. Every single week that we come out here, we try to talk about tight ends. I mean, we are all in on Dallas Goedert, the elite tight end option. Dallas Goedert, you were looking at the snaps that he had in Philadelphia. You were looking at the market share that he had since the Zach Ertz trade. And I was wanting to come out here and say, you know what? Dallas Goedert, this is a tight end that is a safe option to at least be a mid tight end one. If anything, I wanted to get aggressive and put him in that top 5 range. Now, yes, a lot of the reason that he failed this past week was based on the overall failure of the Philadelphia Eagles passing offense. I mean, Jalen Hurts was not exactly great this week. I mean, he came out, he had 129 passing yards, 0 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. But at the end of the day, with Jalen Hurts, he had 31 pass attempts, and you had a total of 3 targets for Dallas Goedert, a total of 0 yards, 0 touchdowns, 1 reception, just so we didn't get completely embarrassed and just so we didn't lay up the goose egg. Now, the issue is going forward, I don't necessarily know how far we can be dropping down Dallas Goedert in our rest of season rankings. Because if I'm going to go through and pull up Dallas Goedert with where we have him among some of these other tight ends, I really don't necessarily think that he should be falling that much. I think that we will probably get a bounce back from the Philadelphia Eagles passing offense. We have him in the same tier as Hawkinson, Andrews, Pitts. We're probably going to have to drop him down below. You know what? We have to have Gronk over him. We have to have maybe even Zach Ertz over him at this point. Even though the underlying numbers look fantastic from an opportunity standpoint of Dallas Goedert. And you know, one other tight end that we can say the same thing, Kyle Pitts. I mean, with Kyle Pitts, this was an option that we were looking at and saying, okay, well, we hated him coming into the season. We've talked about that at length now, knowing he was going the 4th round, rookie tight end, not producing at that level. But every single week, I mean, essentially every single week since Calvin Ridley stepped away from football, I was coming out going, okay, well, Kyle Pitts, he's the wide receiver 1 in Atlanta. This guy you're going through, you're starting him every single week, regardless of what we had the week prior. And every single week, it's disappointing. I mean, the targets may be there. Like, you go back dating it since week 8 against the Carolina Panthers. 6 targets, then 7, 7, 5, 6, which is a perfectly fine mark for a tight end, especially a 6'6", 240-pound monster. I mean, the most athletic tight end arguably in the NFL. You're looking at him saying this volume continues to happen. If he has this role against the Jacksonville Jaguars, he's an elite. Oh my gosh. I have no idea what's going on at the tight end position. I want to say at this point, if you're going to ever ask me a question in a live stream, if it's going to be about the tight end position, you should probably take my answer and you should probably do the exact opposite of that. oh my gosh, Kyle Pitts, I don't even know how far we can be moving him down. Actually, we're going to have to move him behind Andrews. We're going to have to move him behind Gronk. It looks like Gronk's a top 5 tight end. We'll get to Gronk a little bit later on in this video. So you know what? Kyle Pitts and Dallas Goedert, they'll be falling down our rest of season rankings. Way too high on them. And not even to mention the massive whiff that we had on Dan Arnold a week ago at the same time. It's been brutal for us with these tight ends. And now going over and talking about some things that happened on Thursday on the Thanksgiving games, we learned that, the New Orleans Saints, you treat them exactly how you do with the Cleveland Browns. You cannot start a single player on the New Orleans Saints outside of whoever the starting running back may be there, and only if that starting running back is Alvin Kamara or Mark Ingram. I even wanted to convince myself that it was possible to go through and play Tony Jones this past week, because I was saying, okay, well, Tony Jones, it's not like Mark Ingram was a great running back talent. With Tony Jones, he had the role at the beginning part of the season, taking some touches away from Alvin Kamara. If he can go through, if he can just take that Mark Ingram role, if he can get 80% of the snaps in New Orleans, I thought Tony Jones was an intriguing option here. obviously, never running back you're betting on the talent profile with, but if you're just guaranteed 80% of the touches in your backfield, then all of a sudden you can go out there and nope, not the case. This offense is so damn capped with what you have with Trevor Siemian. I don't even necessarily want to say it's Trevor Siemian's fault. How the hell is he supposed to drive the ball down the field at all whenever you're looking at his top weapons in this offense? Being the combination of Tony Jones at running back, Lil Jordan Humphrey, hook 'em horns, baby, at wide receiver, Ty Montgomery, Traquan Smith, Marquez Callaway, Deontay Harris. You can't play anybody in New Orleans outside of Alvin Kamara when Kamara does come back. But now that the Saints are 5-6, it looks like this team's not going to have any playoff aspirations after what they've lost they've lost every single game since you had Jameis Winston getting removed from this team. Their past 5 weeks now, lost against the Eagles, lost against the Titans, lost against the Bills, lost against the Atlanta Falcons at the same time. They're really trending in the wrong direction. I wouldn't even be surprised if maybe they don't rush Alvin Kamara back at all at this point. And now our next lesson learned is the Cincinnati Bengals offense. You keep on going, betting on our guys, Joe Mixon. Dear God, love what we are getting from Joe Mixon at this point. It just warms my heart. My favorite way to start drafts this year, and you have no idea how many times we were called stupid for this. You have no idea how much hate we endured at the beginning part of the season. Going through, starting Devontae Adams in the first, Joe Mixon in the second round. Sign me up for that start every single time. Joe Mixon comes out in a tough matchup here against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Yet again, 28 carries. He had 28 carries this week, 30 carries the week prior. Totaling damn near 300 rushing yards over the past 2 weeks. This is a running back now that has 11 total touchdowns. 11 rushing touchdowns, 13 total touchdowns on the season. He is a must-start running back one for you every single week. And if you're looking at the schedule going forward, this next week, he gets the Chargers. I think you're going to be extremely excited. Maybe we're going to have Joe Mixon ranked as a top 3 running back this week, especially with the injury to Christian McCaffrey. If we're looking at our rest of season rankings on Patreon, Joe Mixon's jumping DeAndre Swift. He's jumping Alvin Kamara. I think he jumps Dalvin Cook. I think he goes up into that top tier with Taylor McCaffrey, Najee Harris, and Austin Eckler. I think Joe Mixon, top 5 running back rest of season. And I hate myself because with Higgins, y'all know we've been higher than consensus on T. Higgins every single week so far this season. Just looking at the volume consistently being there in Cincinnati. T. Higgins, you knew he was going to come through one of these weeks. It turns out it's this week. He gets his 8 targets. He gets his 6 receptions, 114 receiving yards, and the receiving touchdown as well. I think T. Higgins, going right back to what we were saying all year, he's a must-start option every single week. The matchups upcoming are pretty tough pass defenses in particular. The Chargers, not an easy pass defense. Neither are the 49ers, neither are the Broncos. But nonetheless, if Higgins is playing in this high-powered Cincinnati Bengals offense, and at the same time he's able to get 8 targets every single week, I think you go through, you play T. Higgins. And now going back to Thanksgiving, it would be shameful if I did not come out here and talk a little bit about Hunter Renfrow dropping 21 fantasy points this week. Not only does Hunter Renfrow drop 21 fantasy points, and y'all know I'm not a massive Hunter Renfrow fan by any means, but I will give him credit for this was, I mean, a solid 21 fantasy points at the same time. This was not Marquez Valdes-Scantling coming out, having a couple long balls, coming away with a receiving touchdown that's not going to be sustainable going forward. No, this is Hunter Renfrow coming out 9 targets. I mean, his season high here, tying a couple other weeks, 134 receiving yards and 8 receptions. Now, of course, you're never going to be expecting that's going to keep up, but I mean, this breaks his season high with receptions. I mean, damn near doubles his season high with his receiving yards. I think that Hunter Renfrow going forward is another wide receiver you have to be moving up our rest of season rankings. Pulling up Patreon with where we had Hunter Renfrow, we had him directly behind Calvin Ridley, Elijah Moore, Rashad Bateman, directly above Brandon Ayuk, Chase Claypool, Darnell Mooney. I think Hunter Renfrow probably has to go a little bit higher. I think now you can kind of consider him as that borderline top 24 wide receiver. And I know a lot of people are going to be screaming, of course he's in top 24. Go actually rank your top 24 wide receivers. It's probably pretty hard to get him in there. And now our next lesson learned will be that Cam Newton is not it in Carolina. With Cam Newton, we are consistently going through and betting against the Carolina Panthers passing offense. Y'all know, I mean, we've been saying that Cam Newton's not going to be a good real life NFL quarterback, but he could be productive in fantasy based on the rushing upside, particularly in the red zone. Like literally that's copied and pasted for what I said every single time we got a question with Cam Newton this past week. 5 completions, 21 pass attempts. Let me repeat that. 5 completions with 21 pass attempts, 92 passing yards, 2 interceptions. I mean, it turns out that, like we said, when he got signed, I mean, if Cam Newton had the talent left, don't we think that the Seattle Seahawks would have signed him instead of playing Geno Smith? The Miami Dolphins would have signed him instead of playing Jacoby Brissett. Washington would have signed him as soon as Ryan Fitzmagic goes down. Yeah, Cam Newton, not it in Carolina. I mean, DJ Moore somehow comes out and provides you production regardless. DJ Moore, I will say a big thing in this is Christian McCaffrey obviously getting injured, but he does have 4 receptions, 103 receiving yards. I think you get lucky there with DJ Moore this next week. Hopefully, honestly, you get Phillip Walker in this offense if you're going to be trying to play DJ Moore, because I think that with Cam, he's going to be a better option in fantasy, but in real life, he's going to be limiting this entire offense for the Carolina Panthers. Now, our next lesson learned is a lesson that you've learned time and time again. Just to reiterate, when Jaylen Waddle is playing in an offense that has no Will Fuller, no Devontae Parker, you play Jaylen Waddle everywhere you can. I mean, I'm upset with myself not betting the over on Jaylen Waddle on Underdog Fantasy. Happy that we told essentially everybody who ever asked a question about Jaylen Waddle to go through and start him. And there's nothing to really discuss here. I mean, he has his usual role. He comes away with 10 targets, 9 receptions, 137 receiving yards. Obviously, this team's a lot better with Tua Tagovailoa compared to Jacoby Brissett. I mean, one would naturally assume that was going to be the case. So yeah, with Jaylen Waddle, you play him every single week going forward. Not much to discuss. We should have known this for quite a while. Now, something that I had no idea how to expect coming into the week, and I was just telling everybody to avoid the situation entirely, maybe that was the wrong way to go about it, was the Tennessee Titans offense. Now, you remove Derrick Henry, you remove A.J. Brown, you remove Julio Jones, and I mean, if you were looking at what Vegas was telling us, Vegas had the Tennessee Titans as the lowest projected offense of the week. And I was wanting to go through and I was wanting to honestly kind of just avoid everybody in this scenario. But really a weird spot where Tennessee comes out. And yeah, Tannehill gives absolutely nothing. Right, with Ryan Tannehill, you get 93 total passing yards. But the running backs here, I mean, you get Dontrell Hilliard, 131 yards. Now, yes, that was based off one big play, essentially. Donta Foreman, also over 100 rushing yards. They split this backfield damn near 50-50 with no Adrian Peterson here anymore. Maybe in a plus matchup, you can actually consider playing Donta Foreman if he can get up to 19 carries in a single game, especially this next week going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Dontrell Hilliard and Donta Foreman are now players that maybe we have to consider, even though you're not going to be able to play Tannehill or any option in this receiving game, knowing that, I mean, really, they have nobody to effectively move the ball down the field. Now, our next lesson learned is Cordell Patterson is back. Cordell Patterson, I mean, we disrespected the man by moving him down in our rest of season rankings. We moved him down to running back 16, and my God, he needs to be that high-end running back 2, low-end running back 1. Honestly, probably needs to be up there alongside someone like Saquon Barkley, to be completely honest, a running back that just continuously shows us that he's going to be one of the most efficient running backs in the NFL with, I mean, just the fact that he is an elite level athlete. I mean, this is an option that has 93 carries, 411 rushing yards, and he's averaging more than 10 yards per reception, 41 receptions, 500 receiving yards at the same time, 9 total touchdowns this season. I mean, with Cordell Patterson, as we've been saying so far this year, it's like you go through, you take a low-end wide receiver 3, a low-end running back 2, you combine that production together, and even this week with Cordell Patterson, it was a little bit better than that because he only had 3 targets. I mean, he gets there with the production. He gets there over 100 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns, essentially just based on being used as a running back in a nice matchup against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, I would say that it's a tough matchup against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers upcoming, but I think you maybe have to play him regardless because back whenever we saw him go up against the Buccaneers back in week 2, I mean, you did have 5 receptions, 58 receiving yards. You had multiple touchdowns that week as well. I think Cordell Patterson is just a must-start player every single week for you. I mean, like a running back that we've been talking about for quite a while now. I don't know if we can move him any higher in our rest of season rankings because we already had him in a very aggressive mark. But Leonard Fournette officially now on a points per game standpoint, a top 10 running back in fantasy. 44 points against the Indianapolis Colts. I mean, going through and rivaling what Jonathan Taylor gave you a week ago. This is a running back, 4 total touchdowns. I mean, yet again, just dominant in the receiving game as well. 8 targets out of the backfield, 7 receptions. He's getting 16 points just as a receiver out of this backfield. I mean, with Leonard Fournette, I mean, a 3-down bell cow in one of the most productive offenses in the not much to talk about. Just Leonard Fournette is that elite level running back in fantasy. And speaking of that same offense with Rob Gronkowski, I need to give the man his respect. Now, fair warning, I want to put a massive disclaimer out here, as we've done at the beginning of this video. I have no idea what the hell I am talking about when it comes to the tight end position. With Gronk, we were saying that he was a mid-tight end 1. I didn't really want to play him against the New York Giants a week ago just because we wanted to see that he was fully healthy. This week, you were going through, you were playing him everywhere you could. But we disrespected the man by having him ranked behind Kyle Pitts, having him ranked behind Dallas Goedert, even having him ranked behind someone like TJ Hawkinson at this point. I think something you can't do. Now, I'm interested to know exactly what failed with Chris Godwin and Mike Evans in this offense. I mean, Godwin and Evans pretty much played every single snap here, so I really have no explanation on how they failed. I mean, Godwin and Evans have had such high floors so far this entire season. Now, you get Gronk coming out here just demanding over 100 receiving yards in this offense. Rob Gronkowski leading this team in targets with 9. I wonder if this was a game flow scenario or if maybe this is something you can expect going forward with Gronk possibly being the #1 option in Tampa. And now our next lesson learned is you cannot start anybody for the New York Jets. I have no idea how I convinced myself. Oh, well, with Ty Johnson, he's getting 7 targets a week, and Michael Carter leaving 7 targets a week. Maybe he gets up to 8 or 9. Maybe it's a great matchup against the Houston. How the hell did y'all let me come out here and rank Ty Johnson in a range where we were actually telling people to start him? How did y'all let me get away with that? Please hold me accountable when I say something that's that stupid when I'm telling you to play a committee running back for the New York Jets. Tell me to shut up. I mean, please help me out here. We are the Fog. We're in this together. How am I out here on a limb making a fool of myself, telling people to play Ty Johnson and Elijah Moore, even with, I mean, the New York Jets winning this football game? Still, you have Tevin Coleman, 16 carries. Austin Walker, 9 carries. They're splitting this backfield into thirds with Elijah Moore at the same time. I mean, in a game where they win, they score 21 points. You're not going to be seeing 21 points scored by the Jets that many weeks. And even with no Corey Davis, Elijah Moore, only 4 receptions, 46 receiving yards. Please, if I ever tell someone to start Elijah Moore again, I don't know. You have to scream at me to tell me to shut up and to stop talking and turn off a live stream. Now, our next lesson learned is, I guess, Brandon Ayuk maybe is the wide receiver 1 in San Francisco. Now, with Brandon Ayuk, of course, Deebo Samuel gets the groin injury with Deebo Samuel. I mean, you have to hope that he comes back very soon. But Ayuk yet again leads this team in targets. And this has been the continued trend over the past month. Now, I mean, I was of the opinion that we really didn't want to be playing Brandon Ayuk this past week because, I mean, I was looking at it as a run-first offense that we were saying, okay, well, you were going to have Brandon Ayuk as the 4th option in this offense behind the starting running back, behind Deebo Samuel, and behind George Kittle. But yet again, Brandon Ayuk comes out here and he demands a decent amount of targets. This past week, yes, he gets there mainly with the long ball, but 3 receptions, 91 receiving yards, 6 targets at the same time. Now, with the Deebo Samuel injury, I think Ayuk's definitely definitely a player that's a must-start option if we're going into a world where you don't have Deebo Samuel anymore in San Francisco. Of course, we have to wait for more news about this injury. I'm recording this Sunday night, so it's very, very limited with the actual knowledge that we have with Deebo Samuel. And now our last lesson learned is it looks like now you can begin considering to start Odell Beckham Jr. for the Los Angeles Rams. Now, I will say a lot of this production, I don't want to say it didn't look good. If you watched this game, this was, in my opinion, the game of the week. I wanted to watch this. I thought it was going to be the best game between two of the best teams in the NFL. And we were looking for our guy, Odell Beckham Jr. Y'all know I love Odell. The intro to this channel is the Odell Beckham Jr. catch. I mean, I was telling everybody, you can't start Odell in fantasy. I mean, this is a spot where you're still having to go through and assume that, Van Jefferson's the wide receiver 2 in Los Angeles. And with Odell, the last time he had a 100-yard receiving game, Tom Brady was in New England. I'm not going through and advising someone to start Odell in that scenario, but 10 targets, 5 receptions, 81 receiving yards, and the receiving touchdown, damn near 20 fantasy points. I will say how he got there was really ugly. I'm not going to be coming out and saying Odell Beckham Jr. is a must-start option every single week. I want to see what we get this next week against the Jacksonville Jaguars, but definitely is a lot more interesting than he was previously. And of course, thank you so much for coming out to the live stream. Coming out to the video. And if you have not done so already, please go down there, drop a like on the video, leave a comment letting me know how stupid I am. And when you leave that comment letting me know how stupid I am, you get entered in to win a Fantasy Flock Network hat. And also go sign up for Underdog Fantasy. On Underdog Fantasy, when you use promo code FLOCK, they'll match that first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100. Available in damn near every single state. Go support the channel. Check out some player props. Get into a fantasy draft. Yeah, so I got for y'all. Thank you so much. I hope you have a great day, and I hope I see y'all with the live stream on Monday night.